Estimated that the average adult makes 35,000 decisions a day. That's nearly 13 million decisions a year. Now, these decisions range from everything from what to wear, what shoes to buy, what to eat, how to cut your hair, the things that are really important. Things like what's your life calling, what's your vocation, what job will you have, where will you live, who will you marry. The good news is throughout time, we've all made decisions. You see, each decision involves risk. Deciding to do something is in essence deciding not to do something else. That is by definition risk. The good news is as we look back through history, we find ourselves that each and every person's life, each and every person's story involves risk. People making decisions and making good decisions. I want to take you back in time. I want to take you back to 1830s. In the 1830s, there was a man named John living in Vermont. John had a blacksmith business, and it was okay. John knew there was more, though. He knew he could do more. He knew that he had more opportunity. And John decided to take a risk. John made a decision. He packed up his blacksmith tools, and he headed west. John found himself in Illinois, in a farm town, a small farm town, and John looked around and saw that there weren't many blacksmiths there, and he thought this would be a good place to start his business. So John set up shop, and soon John was successful. John had a wildly performing blacksmith business, but his heart, his passion was blacksmith. His heart, his passion was innovation, and as he was in that small farm town, he looked out over the horizon. And what he saw was farmers in the field. He saw these farmers in the field plowing with these plows that just weren't efficient. You see, just like John moved west, so did the equipment of the day. What John was looking at was plows that had come from the Northeast, cast iron plows. And these plows, just the soil that was in the Midwest was heavy, clay-laden, sticky. Farmers were inefficient. The plows were inefficient, and John knew there had to be a better way. So John took a risk. You see, John didn't know a thing about farming. What John did know, he knew blacksmith. So John went to a farmer and said, "Hey, let me help you." John took that plow, polished that plow, applying all the knowledge that he knew from his blacksmith business, and found an old saw blade. John fashioned that saw blade to the plow, that polished plow, took it out to the field. That plow was wildly efficient. That heavy soil that used to stick to that cast iron plow was shed. The saw blade scoured the dirt, the clay from that plow, and the farmer was more efficient, and the plow was more efficient. You see, John set the foundation for what we know today is the global juggernaut of agriculture. John's full name, John Deere. And what we know today from John Deere is the decision he made, the risk he took to move west has fundamentally changed agriculture for all of time. My story has a parallel to John. You see, I'm grateful for John. I'm grateful that John made that decision to move west, because today I have the opportunity to lead a regional John Deere retailer, serving farmers, homeowners, landscapers, golf courses here in the Midwest. And much like John, my story begins in a small town, a small farming community in Indiana, where I raised my right hand just like my father, just like my grandfathers, and swore to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. I joined the U.S. Army. I, too, took a risk, made a decision to serve my country, served in Georgia in the Army, and served out in California. And I'll forever be grateful for that risk that I took. The risk that I took to serve my country, because not only did it give me an opportunity to serve, it gave me an opportunity to meet someone who had fundamentally changed my life. While in California serving in the active duty Army, I met my wife, Lindsay. She and I have been married for 16 years. And I'll tell you, that decision, the risk, candidly, the risk she took on me, has changed my life. As I finished my active duty service, Lindsay and I decided we were going to move to Kansas City. I was going to work for the Army as a civilian, and it was a great decision. It was a risk. And that risk paid off. Shortly after moving to Kansas City, I had an opportunity to make another decision. I came home, Lindsay and I had a discussion, and I said, hey, look, there's this war happening in Iraq. And I think there's an opportunity for me to help. She and I evaluated the risk, and we made a decision, and I voluntarily deployed as a civilian working for the Army to deploy to Iraq. It was risk. By definition, it was risk. Had an amazing opportunity while in Iraq working on the reconstruction team and saw each and every day phenomenal Americans, young men, young women, young Iraqis, young people from all over the world as part of the multinational force choosing to put themselves at risk to make a difference. I came back from Iraq and we had a chance to move to California. We lived in California, and there too I had another opportunity to embrace risk, to make a decision to move to New Orleans following Hurricane Katrina. After coming back from Hurricane Katrina, Lindsay and I sat down and we decided that it probably wasn't the best thing for me to continue to chase risk. So we packed up, and Lindsay's a California gal. She took a giant risk and moved to Indiana, back to where I grew up. Lindsay and I had a chance. I came back, worked for then Governor Mitch Daniels, ultimately in economic development, and that's where I met a guy who truly defines how to optimize risk. A guy who he and his brother-in-law and a buddy took a giant risk and started a technology company in Indianapolis, something that doesn't happen or didn't happen at the time. He took a risk on me, and as I joined the company, ExactTarget, a digital marketing technology company, had a wonderful opportunity to grow within the company. Had more opportunity than each and every day, saw new opportunity for growth. During my time at ExactTarget, we acquired 6 companies, and I had the great fortune of being able to serve as the investor relations officer and take the company public on the New York Stock Exchange, one of the largest software as a service cloud IPOs in history of the New York Stock Exchange at the time. We ran the company for a little over a year as a public company, and then were bought by Salesforce.com for $2.5 billion in 2013. It was at that time, the guy who took a risk on me, inviting me to join his company, Scott Dorsey, co-founder, CEO, and chairman of ExactTarget, came to me and said, hey, I love working with you. I really want you to be my chief of staff. I want you to work with me and help me integrate these companies. We've got a lot of work to do. Friends, talk about risk. Scott took a risk on me. Scott took a risk on me, a guy who grew up in a small town in Indiana, who had never worked for a company before, right? I'd worked in the Army, both as a soldier and a civilian. I worked in the government, but never in a company. Scott took a risk on me, and Scott and I worked together for a little over a year after that acquisition. As Scott departed, I took a risk on myself. Started my own marketing strategy consulting firm, and that's how I met the team at the regional John Deere retailer, Reynolds Farm Equipment, where I now serve as the first non-family member CEO. You see, there are parallels between the John Deere story and my story. They both involve risk. John took a giant risk, packed up and headed west. Took a giant risk not knowing agriculture and really finding a solution that solved a problem for farmers. I took a risk, raised my right hand, and so many people thereafter took a risk on me. Friends, over the last 20 years, the last 2 decades, I've made a lot of decisions, embraced a lot of risk. I've made good decisions, I've made bad decisions. In some cases, I've avoided decision. But I can tell you one thing, in each and every case, I've applied the opportunity to learn. In each and every one of those decisions, I learned, and I'd share with you today, there's a thesis that I've developed that I would love to share because I think this thesis will help. As you really look to improve return on risk in your life, as you look to improve your ability to make decisions, there are 3 key things. 3 key attributes that I believe can truly help you improve your return on risk. It's people, it's passion, and it's pace. Let's jump into people. Jim Rohn, an amazing speaker, incredibly gifted, has this idea that we are the product of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Think about your own lives. Think about the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Think about how they help you make decisions. Think about your interactions with them, whether it's at work, whether it's at school, whether it's in the community. There's a common business philosophy that says we should have our own personal board of directors, those people that we reach out to that really help guide us to make better decisions. You see, I think what Jim Rohn says and what this business philosophy is of personal board of directors and those 5 folks, we are who we surround ourselves with. The way in which we can improve our return on risk, the way that we can make better decisions is by involving more people in our lives. Malcolm Gladwell, a great author, wrote a book called Outliers. And in that book, he asserts that there's this 1,000 hours that you really need to have before you can be an expert, before you can really master a topic. Friends, I believe that as you look at how we improve our return on risk, how we make better decisions, that 1,000-hour concept is real. In areas where you don't have 1,000 hours of experience in really making a decision or really improving your return on risk, you have a lot of people around you, a lot of people, whether it's your personal board of directors, those 5 folks that Jim Rohn talked about. There's a lot of opportunity to use them. While they may not collectively have 1,000 hours, I guarantee you they have more hours at that decision together than you do alone. The first way we improve return on risk, the way in which we make better decisions, is people. The second is passion. I had an opportunity recently to spend time with Sam Allen, the CEO and chairman of John Deere. Sam's been the CEO for 10 years. Sam's an amazing leader, incredibly gifted. Sam talked about it's great in business to have smart people. We all want smart people around us. In business, we need smart people, but it's more than smart people that make a great company. It's smart and heart. He talks about having heart, having passion. You see, I believe that to truly improve our return on risk, you have to have passion. When we think about passion, when we think about applying passion to make decisions, it's more than just yes or no. It's more than right or wrong. We pour ourselves in when emotion is involved. Just yesterday, our CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, announced that he was leaving our company. You see, his passion was one that took him to the ministry. He's setting aside his role as Chief Financial Officer to follow his passion to be a full-time pastor. Friends, he improved his return on risk. He made a decision based on his heart and based on what he knows is right. We see it every day. We see it in schools. We see it in police stations. Teachers, firefighters, police officers truly apply their passion to their vocation. They make decisions from their heart. And when they make decisions from their heart, and when we collectively make decisions from our heart, we end up in a better spot. The third way, we've talked people, we've talked passion. The third way in which we can improve our return on risk, the way in which we can make better decisions, is pace. There's a Harvard Business Review article from 2013, and I'll paraphrase here a bit, but it says that fast and directionally right decisions will soon replace slow, methodical decision making. And I think it's a great point of view. Now, it's not saying to be reckless, but what it is saying is, as you think about the really tough decisions we've had in life, it's easy to get stuck in analysis paralysis, where we just can't get ourselves to make a decision. It's hard. But with pace, focus on pace, we can make those decisions and make them quicker. In fact, I would argue that with pace, we get more at bats. Even making a decision initially and knowing that that motion is happening, it's easier to steer the ship back in the right direction, even if it's wrong up front. You see, pace is something that we all know to be powerful. And in fact, I would argue that in each and every one of our pockets is a great reminder of pace. Think about the last time you had to update an app on your phone. It doesn't happen anymore. It updates each and every day or whenever the new feature or functionality comes out. Used to, when you look at software development, what would happen is you would build software, test it, and you would wait till a date on the calendar to ship it. Now today, that's not the case. Now today, what happens is we get new features, we get new functionalities all the time. It's why we see this bug fix or that bug fix when we have a new release of an application. Friends, it's a great reminder that we don't have to be perfect when we make decisions. We just have to commit to the decision. A great mentor of mine once shared this philosophy, and I think it's incredibly powerful. He said, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. When you think about pace, keep that in mind. Moving quickly gives us the opportunity to really make good decisions to use all the information we have to make a decision to improve our return on risk, to make better decisions. Friends, I want to leave you with one thought as we think about how we improve our return on risk, how we make better decisions in our own lives. I was with an author this week, Marshall Goldstein. Marshall wrote the book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. It's a great book. And Marshall shared this. He said, we always regret the risk we didn't take. We always regret the risk we didn't take. May the people in your life guide you. May the passion in your heart steer you. And may the pace of change give you the opportunity to truly improve your return on risk. Thank you so much.